please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be responding to a video that was tweeted out by Libs of TikTok because it involves Libs of TikTok, hence why they're in the title in a somewhat baity manner. The video in and of itself intrigued me to an extent because people are essentially covering an incident yet somehow finding a way to make it the entire fault of Libs of TikTok. On the Libs of TikTok Twitter account they are very aggressive. That can't be denied, they wouldn't deny it. They're aggressive about certain people competing in sports, for example, or which bathroom you use. Now I remember years ago when I first started, nearly 9 years ago by the way, no one cared about the bathroom discussion. Most of us didn't. We didn't care because our view was just use the toilet and leave. But some do now, as time has progressed and we've realised that perhaps that wasn't such a healthy attitude to have, that personal space, determined by certain factors like biological sex, does in fact matter to a large number of people. So adjustments had to be made quickly, others just didn't bother to enable that in the first place. This is important, as this is what the central focus of the topic is today. The sports part is another aspect that leads to many accusing the owner of the Libs of TikTok account of being phobic in a way. Whether there is any truth to that or not, that is entirely down to the individual's subjective interpretation. Libs of TikTok tweeted this video out with the caption, "Oh no, some ugly libs are mad at me for exposing that word and that word again. How will I ever recover from this?" There is another aspect that Libs of TikTok has been covering of late concerning crimes committed by those who are trans. There has been a sizable uptick in the West of crimes committed by those who are male to female transgender against children. There has been a massive ignoring by the mainstream media of this, favouring instead any excuse to shame a white person or, at this point of the year, Trump man bad. I get the election is quite important, but Mark Hamill is not that relevant. Please stop it. Because of this increase in crimes committed by those who happen to be male to female, there appears to be what others have dubbed a correlation. My perspective will always be the same. I don't care what you identify as. I really don't. If you commit a crime against a child, you are less than human, and you are not worthy of many things. This is where you typically get terms like, let me fire up my trusty wood chipper, or a short drop and a sudden stop. I do believe I've prattled on long enough while the Libs of TikTok Twitter account has been on the screen. So now let's dive into the video to get some valuable and much needed context.
Share something with you that happened in our community yesterday that is now going viral on X, specifically the Libs of TikTok account.
A cisgender woman stalked and filmed a friend of ours in the bathroom.
Because I'm all about that context, I'm going to play the video that they are now referring to. They're going to describe it a little more as well in detail afterwards.
What are you doing?
Going to the bathroom.
Why are you in the girls' bathroom?
I'm a trans girl.
But you're not a girl.
Oh, we're doing one of these.
Yeah.
Interesting. Never had this before. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yeah, I pay a lot of money to be safe in the bathroom.
Me too. Excuse me. Rude.
Do you think that's okay?
That video was tweeted out by Peyton McNabb. They're going to discuss Peyton McNabb in a moment as well. To give you some context, I'm going to provide some additional information when there is relevant gaps that need to be filled in.
The cis woman in question has made quite a name for herself spewing hateful and ugly rhetoric against trans women.
In this instance, Peyton McNabb has a legitimate gripe against those who are male to female trans in the sports field as an athlete, standing vehemently against those who are male to female trans competing in the women's category, because she's been on the receiving end of that level of strength. Peyton McNabb is from North Carolina. In September 2022, she was struck in the head by a spike from an opponent in her varsity high school volleyball match. She played for Hiwassee Dam High School. She was knocked unconscious and suffered a neck injury along with a concussion. It took her months to recover from the headaches and concentration problems, and ended up missing the remainder of the volleyball season. Peyton firmly believes that this was 100% preventable if only the rights of competing safely had not been infringed upon by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association transgender athletic policy in 2019. When you have a chance to go far in a career and it is cut short or hampered in a manner, you develop a natural gripe, irritation. I will firmly still believe that transgender athletes should not be competing in the same category as somebody of the biological sex they identify with. The biological advantages are far too voluminous, especially in anything that is remotely physical. So what is or is not dangerous rhetoric, as you have called it, is subjective.
Including making appearances with McKinley on Fox News.
While I'm no fan of Fox News, I do firmly believe that isn't necessarily a bad thing to have a platform to speak. I do believe you should have all platforms to be able to speak, so everyone can hear your message and discuss it. If you only ever get the platform with one political leaning because of political leaning, it speaks volumes about who is willing to deal with the issue that is causing such a problem. And I mean deal with, not placate. Deal with, not enable. In athletics, there is a massive contradiction. Many athletics committees and governing bodies have said no to transgender athletes competing in the category for the gender they associate with, instead of their biological sex. Other governing bodies dictate that you should compete in the open category if you are not strictly biologically female. The open category is typically known as the male category. I hate that Fox News is the only one willing to have this conversation, because it should be everywhere, especially now that more information is coming to light when it comes to clear and obvious biological advantages that people have been warning about for years. Sport is not about inclusivity, sport is about winning.
Her name is Peyton McNabb. Her sorority is Delta Zeta.
Because of the video you saw earlier, people have actually lodged a complaint to Western Carolina University to try and get the sorority shut down.
She was made famous after an unfortunate volleyball accident which a spike ball hit her in the face. The ball was spiked by a trans woman.
I know you are speaking from a position of stating the fact, but I do find it somewhat negligent that you aren't willing to acknowledge the fact that that ball being spiked by somebody who was physically so much stronger, faster as well. The reflexes of Peyton would never have been as quick, would surely be an indicator that you are not willing to accept that difference.
She was then puppeted and parroted by the right-wing media and was made the one poster child of why trans women should not play sports.
Okay, so there are a couple points here. Firstly, parroted, championed by right-wing media. Doesn't matter what side of an argument politically you are, if you are correct. The disparity between men and women is far too obvious. We know this in mixed martial arts. We know this in tennis. Serena Williams outright said she would be defeated by every man in the top 100. Many of us would argue vastly more. And Serena Williams is one of the all-time great grunters and players. Many sporting governing bodies have finally started to catch up to this, and it isn't getting reported on by the left-wing majority media because they're unwilling to accept this problem that needs to be addressed properly for sport to have any integrity. And there must be integrity in sport, or you are not playing a sport. You're just playing all-inclusive where everyone gets a participation medal, with scholarships and sponsorships being taken away from those who should have that chance to earn it, under the guise of mere representation, or because they've been allowed to compete when they shouldn't be, and others lose out for their future, because, again, mere inclusivity.
She has been spreading hate and misinformation since.
Now, this is a statement, an assertion. I don't know anything about Peyton McNabb beyond the volleyball incident, so I don't know what is or is not misinformation, but I do know from what I've seen of those who typically make these statements, and yes, I'm going to assert this, it's quite alright, dismiss it if you like. Far too many base it on a subjective interpretation of information. That causes problems when one is not willing to concede they could be on the wrong side of an argument, or because of their confirmation bias, they're unwilling to see a differing perspective.
The fame provided by the likes of McKinley and Fox News have emboldened her beyond hate speech on the internet to purposefully stalking and recording a trans woman in the bathroom.
Now, I will say, if you're going to record an individual to have a conversation or a confrontation, you should do it outside in a public setting. You should not be doing it in a bathroom. Something about that does breach the very personal space you want to champion. I concede that as a point, because I don't believe that to be the correct way to go about handling disagreements, certainly when, again, personal space is involved. The speaking of Fox News and Megyn Kelly as if they are four-letter words tickles me. I feel like you want to follow up each version, Fox News, and then Megyn Kelly by spitting. It's like how I treated Xboxes when I was younger, because they're a crap console.
A misdemeanor, by the way.
Well, if a crime has been committed and recorded as such, then she should be arrested. Why hasn't she been arrested yet? Let me guess, the North Carolina police in the respective area where Peyton McNabb is are clearly negligent in their duties and perhaps sympathise with Peyton McNabb.
We want to make it abundantly clear Peyton McNabb was the perpetrator and is now crying on the internet that she is being investigated by her school where the video was reported.
Generally, when it comes to colleges, I don't like that they have the autonomy or the power to do such a thing. But within their own facilities, I do understand that they have a certain amount of power and they should have to investigate certain problems. There's a balance, and I'm not entirely sure how much power a college should have. And I'm certainly not sure whether or not any political leaning at that particular college would impact the outcome of that investigation. I'm certainly not going to assume, at time of recording, there is no indication of what has happened just yet. What's interesting is that as time has progressed, more and more people are talking about this video, which has shone more of a light on Peyton McNabb. There are some who, yes, are accusing Peyton of being transphobic and deserving of all the punishment they get. Others sympathising, and this in turn is leading to a Save Women's Sports movement. It's a hashtag on Twitter. Check it out if you're interested. No doubt some will see that as hateful, others will see it as factual. There is at present though a rather fascinating shift. I don't know if anyone else has noticed. The, is it called Overton window? Seems to be going another way at the moment. And I'm intrigued by that, and whether or not that could also lead to any changes in policy at universities.
Also my school, and I hope to see them take correct action and expel her.
To the individual in the video that goes to the same school, I must say that you are choosing the wrong position to have for a resolution. If this went down the path of expulsion from the university in question in North Carolina, Peyton McNabb would be invigorated, because academia would have for the second time failed Peyton McNabb. The argument would then invariably become a freedom of speech argument. Once that goes to a court, I can't imagine any version of a reality where Peyton would lose. And this is where my issue with colleges having a certain amount of power to dole out justice on their campuses becomes a problem. Because a lot of them don't abide, let's say, the democratic process, right? If one's rights are infringed upon, this is where it then gets grey. It would invigorate Peyton McNabb. More people would go to Peyton McNabb, follow, support, bankroll in fact. We've seen senators and congressmen, congresswomen as well, supporting the likes of Riley Gaines. I can imagine many of them would also then go and support Peyton McNabb. We know this from Greg Stube, is that it? Who has openly supported Peyton McNabb. This discussion is going to get bigger, certainly during election season.
Our friend reacted with such amazing grace, more than I would have given.
Not gonna lie, that almost comes across as a bit of a threat.
Peyton then sent the video to Libs of TikTok, who posted it at 8:28 p.m. yesterday.
Now this tells me a couple things. Firstly, you do obsessively look at Libs of TikTok's account, because to bother to go look at the time as well is embarrassing. Additionally, and this is the second point, you must have known by posting this to social media that they would have seen this, or been sent it, meaning you would have gotten double the attention, or Peyton McNabb as well by extension would have gotten more attention, and anyone else who then would have retweeted it to give it more attention, meaning you in turn would have gotten a lot more backlash. People on TikTok are stupid. They don't realise just how much crap they can get from the wider online space, because while you are truly irrelevant on a platform like TikTok, even if you have billions of followers, you get flayed in the online space and you guys put your head in the sand.
It now has over 9.2 million views as of the making of this video and continues to grow.
It's now at close to 15 million views. That's on the Libs of TikTok account. On the Peyton McNabb account, it's a little bit lower, 262,000 views. But your video has sent more negativity in this direction, more toxicity, because you're not looking for a, let's say, productive discussion. You're looking to espouse and to be volatile. In your case, seeking expulsion, and because you believe you're right when it comes to sports, although I have no doubt neither of you actually play or watch sports, you would also be seeking for the sports to maintain the level of inclusivity rather than seeking to be the very best like no one ever was, which would involve having categories for men, for women, and perhaps an open category separate for those who identify as trans.
As a person using the bathroom is not the perpetrator, Trans women are not the perpetrators. Peyton McNabb is the perpetrator.
In the context of filming in a bathroom, Peyton is in the wrong for filming inside the bathroom. She should not have done that. I agree, because I do think that personal space needs to be respected. You should do it outside, but that's a personal belief. The discussion about trans people, men, women, other, using bathrooms for the gender they identify with is one that has heavily divided everyone. It really has. From personal experience, I'm not overly comfortable sharing a unisex bathroom at all. I don't like it. I think women should have their own bathroom and men the same, right? At my old university in Norwich, which is now one of the crappiest ones in the UK, it was top 10 when I was there. Speaks volumes of how far it's fallen since. Have unisex facilities on site, and I used one of those when I went to see a gig there. I think it was Trivium. I hated it because all I heard were women talking, gossiping. It makes you feel very uncomfortable, and I know that for some there's a level of insecurity involved. Even with cubicle stalls with very high doors, it doesn't matter. People like their personal space. This discussion is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. That's the point. It's certainly not going to go anywhere when it comes to colleges because they're too busy appeasing people rather than seeking solutions where everyone is at the table talking. This one does involve talking and listening and not failing to listen to the science, especially as those that have been called grifters, Peyton McNabb, Riley Gaines, Libs of TikTok, have highlighted crimes now being committed in those same bathrooms, which they are using to make those points. This discussion needs to be had. It really does. But in truth, I don't imagine it will go anywhere. And when it comes to the subject of Peyton McNabb's future, there is a chance of expulsion. I stand by what I said earlier, this will invigorate Peyton. It really will. And those on the right will happily help her and her career, which in turn will lead to greater support for those beliefs. Not tackling an issue, you are trying to sweep it under a rug, failing to realize that rug can be lifted.